Genesis.
Hey, what's up? It's Genesis, and I hope you're doing well. Today, I'm going to show you many different ways to get more out of your snares and claps, how to make them more unique and giving them different flavors. I'll put these methods into 4 different categories: pitching, effects, layering, and substitution. You can use these techniques for many different genres, pretty much whichever one you can put your mind to. And before we begin, here's a disclaimer. Although this is mainly an Ableton-based tutorial, these techniques should be applicable to all DAWs once you find alternative routes. And it's okay if you don't agree with some of these techniques, as everyone is different, everyone learns differently, and everyone has different preferences. Alright, let's begin. For the sake of this video, I'm going to be using drums from my Drum Bombs drum kit, which you can get, link in the description below, and I'm going to be using kick 27, snare 27, and hi-hat 27, and open hi-hat 19. And I'm also going to be using a sample from my Visions sample pack, and specifically the downpour sample. And this is just so we can have context of what these drums could sound like in a song. So right now, these are the drums as is. Okay, so we're going to start off with pitching. Pitching is pretty much what it says on the tin. We're going to be pitching our snare or clap around so we can get some different textures and different sounds. Typically, you can pitch it like a few semitones higher or lower. So like this high, this low, etc. As you pitch up your snare or clap, it also gets shorter, and likewise as you pitch your snare or clap lower, its length gets longer. High-pitched snares tend to be good for rhythmically complex genres like drum and bass, jungle, hip-hop as well. So I'm pitching up 5 semitones here, and this is what it sounds like. And if we make our project file faster, and I'll quickly write a drum pattern. And of course we can pitch it down. Bigger and longer snares or claps are greater for slower sounding genres like R&B, mid-tempo, dubstep, and stuff like that, and hip-hop too. If you slow this down to 130-ish, or maybe 140. Stuff like that. We can go beyond this short range to get more interesting sounds. So instead of, let's say, pitching it this low, we can go even lower. Now we got like a really heavy sounding snare, which is great for more emotional or heavier sounding songs. And reverb usually helps assist the drum in making it sounding a lot larger. You can get this washout for free on my website as well, link in the description below. And I'll also apply it to the sample to make it a bit more emotional. And filter out the kick to suit our case here. And we'll go the opposite way. Instead of going extremely low, we'll go extremely high. Another thing to keep in mind is that different sounding snares and claps can influence the kind of groove that you want for your drums. I remember hearing this quote from someone, but I can't remember who. And a great drummer's interview I was listening to said that the kind of snares that you use in your songs can influence the kind of drum groove that you're going to play when you record it in the studio. And I feel the exact same way here when it comes to producing. As I said before, like lower pitched snares or longer sounding drums call for a slower and a more intimate sounding drum groove compared to shorter or higher pitched drums, which call for more complex grooves and patterns. So if we go back to the snare and pitch it really high, for me this is already calling for a more complex and a faster kind of groove. So if we change the BPM of this project to something a lot faster, that's pretty sloppy, but you get the idea. Moving on from pitching with the transpose parameter, we can use frequency shifters. I remember watching a Virtual Riot tutorial. He said that using a frequency shifter to pitch your snare drum, percussion, or whatever can change the fundamental pitch of your drum whilst keeping the same length of the drum and also the high end of your drum. So let's say I want to keep my snare drum at this exact length, but I want it to pitch it higher. I can use a frequency shifter to push it up while still maintaining the same texture and same timbre of the snare wires as well as the length of the drum. You can also go the other way. And of course you can also use this with claps. And I'll use a clap from one of my older kits, a Cold Claps drum kit, which is only claps. Say I have this clap right here, and I want to keep the length of the clap, but only pitch it up or down. You can still use the frequency shifter in the same way. I'll go back to the snare. I'll go for a high pitch. Sounds like it could go pretty well with jump up, but it needs a bit more high end for that. And of course you can use some EQs to do that later. But moving on, I'll pitch the snare drum a bit lower. Sounds a lot softer and I like that. And you can also combine both the transposition and the frequency shifter at the same time. One thing that I found pretty sick is instead of tuning your snare drum or clap really high and losing a lot of your drum length, you can pitch it like around halfway. And you can hear that I still have some clear high end as well. And then going the rest of the way with frequency shifter. Pretty sick. Or you can go the other way. Ooh, getting more like very tight. This is reminding me of, I forgot which Skrillex song it was, but one of his newer songs where he has like a very, very short sounding snare, but also having a mid-rangey fundamental pitch to it. Moving on from frequency shifters, one final thing you can use to get more interesting sounds out of your snares or claps are using pitch envelopes. I typically use pitch envelopes as a way to get a snappier transient, and the way to do this is to bring your decay value pretty far back and then increase the amount. The problem with this method is that if you don't have enough silence at the end of your drum sample, then your drum sample will be cut short. So if I can find a longer sounding snare drum, let's say I have this snare drum, which has a reverb tail on it, and if I use a pitch envelope on it, I can get a snappier transient to it. You can hear the difference of the transient of the snare. It's a lot punchier now, a lot snappier. You can also use this with a lower pitch to keep that same kind of snappy transient at the start compared to not having one. And that's pretty sick. You can also, of course, go the other way. This is a bit more unorthodox. It sounds a bit interesting, but it can work. If I go back to my original snare, if you combine this upwards pitch with a high transposition, you can get a very interesting sounding snare. If I write a drum pattern real quick. Definitely interesting, and I like it. I'll try it with clap. Ooh, that's cool. That's actually so sick. Nice. Okay, moving on to effects now. In terms of effects, the typical thing to do is to slap a reverb or delay on your snare or clap. And usually you do this to give your snare or clap some room, maybe to help it sound bigger and stuff like that. But you can go beyond just using a snare and reverb. What if we wanted to go beyond the delay and turn it into a spring-like delay by turning the time to about like anything below 100 milliseconds and giving it a filter and turning up the feedback? Combining that with a reverb. Ooh, that's pretty cool. We can also maybe just use the delay as a slapback delay. So that means zero feedback. And then bringing back that. Yeah. That's pretty cool as well. What if we go beyond a reverb and turn it into a gated reverb? And to do this, I'm just going to use a regular reverb, put the dry wet up, put it in a group with Control G or Command G, and then create a new chain within this group. We'll call the one with the reverb the wet signal, and the one without anything, just call that dry. And now we have a parallel processing chain. So we can control the reverb channel individually, as well as to add on even more effects at the end of that reverb, or at the start of the reverb as well. So what if we turn this into a gated reverb? So we'll put a gate after a reverb. Turn the reduce up a little bit. Slow down. So we get something like this. Pretty Phil Collins, very 70s, 80s. That's pretty we can go further beyond. What if we add a distortion after all this? And that means we have to turn this down at the end. So now we have a different kind of tone to the snare. Ooh, that's cool. Context. Ooh. Nice. What if we added a chorus? Why not? There's no rules at this point anymore. Ooh. What? Get the chorus up and distort that. Chorus before the reverb, maybe? That's so cool. Woo. What if we add just a regular reverb and delay after all that? That is so sick. What if we combine our processing chain with some pitching? Maybe slow this project down because I want a deeper sounding snare. What? That is insane. Woo! If we go back to our delay thing that we did earlier with a spring delay, we can also use a different kind of delay, like a grain delay, in order to pitch the delay repeats over time. So let's go back to our regular snare drum sound and let's pull back the dry wet of the snare. Let's turn off sync mode and turn up the feedback a lot and the frequency down. That is cool already. And what if we change the pitch to something really small, like 0.2 plus? Oy. That's pretty cool. Let's put it in the parallel processing chain. Let's put it right here and let's turn off everything else. And after the grain delay, we can get rid of the low end. So we're going to get this cool pitching up layer. Woo! Let's change the frequency. Whoa. Change the time. Oh, I need to change this to a clap right now. This is going to sound crazy with a clap. What? Oh my days. Woo. Maybe this one as well. Ooh. What? Pitch it even higher, maybe 0.4 plus. Ooh. What if we pitch it down instead now? Minus 0.6. Ooh. That's pretty sick as well. Just trying to clap to this. Ooh. Maybe add all the effects that we added before. Whoa. That's a bit crazy. Bring back this. Bring back the chorus as well. That is insane. What? Whoa. What? Wow. Okay, moving on from using effects, we'll move on to layering. Of course, it is exactly what it says on the tin. You can layer your snare drum with other snares. Let's say I want to layer my snare drum with this one, because of like the tambourine-y kind of like added texture on the tail of that snare. So I'm going to drag and drop this on top of where I already have my snare, hold down Alt, and then let go, and that should create a group of both snares. And right now, it sounds okay, but the fundamental pitch of the snare overall is sounding a bit muddy, a bit confused. And that's because both fundamental frequencies of each snare are playing at the exact same time. And typically when you layer snares, you only want one of the layers to be your main fundamental frequency, and then your other layers can add textures on top of that. So let's say I want to keep that as my main fundamental frequency, and then this one, we can get rid of that body, get rid of that fundamental, so we only have that nice texture on top. So now we have this nice jingly snare. We can of course go even deeper, get some more. Let's say this one as well. Same thing. Ooh, it's pretty cool. And because in Ableton we have control of each individual layer on the overall snare, we can edit each individual layer. Let's say I want to have a higher pitch of the fundamental layer. So I can do that if I want to. Make the jingles a little bit shorter. Make this guy a bit quieter. Pretty sick. I can also add effects on each individual layer. Let's say I want to put a chorus on this jingly layer. So we now have like a wide jingle and strong body. That's pretty cool actually. Ooh. So that's pretty sick. Instead of using snares, of course you can layer your snare with different drums like claps. You can layer your snares with claps or your claps with snares, vice versa. Let's use this clap. Another one. Pretty sick. Maybe add a snap to the equation. Ooh. That's pretty sick. You can maybe even layer percussions on top of that. So let's say we have this little wood blocky kind of sound. And if we just layer it as is, you can't really hear the wood block, and that's because it's playing at the same time as the snare. Sometimes that could be what you want. You can just want the transient of your percussion layer to merge well with your main snare in order to enhance its punchiness, its snappiness. That could be pretty cool, but you can also shift the timing of your additional layer with a delay. And to do this, you put the dry wet all the way up, feedback all the way down, have no filters, and change your delay from sync mode to time mode. And that way this turns into your shift in time as milliseconds. Let's say we go for like 40 milliseconds. And pitch our percussion layer up. So now we have this cool little blonk at the end of our snare. Let's change the drum pattern and let's go for a faster tempo again. That's pretty cool. We can layer some more percussions on top. Let's try. Let's try this drumstick. Ooh, that's pretty cool. I'm not going to shift it forward this time. I like the tail it has, like the reverb tail, as well as the added snappiness the snare drum has overall because of the transient of this drumstick. That's pretty sick. Let's get rid of these. You can also layer your snare or clap with hi-hats. Let's go for a closed hi-hat first. This one maybe. That's pretty cool. And maybe a trappier one like this one as well. Pitch it up a lot. We're going to use this one to enhance the transient of the snare. That's pretty sick. Pitching up all of them. That's pretty nice. Let's use open hi-hats now. This is a more old school hip hop sound. Yeah. That's pretty sick as well. And of course you can do the same thing with crashes and rides. You just gotta be careful about them not ringing out for too long. Let's add a ride. That's kind of sick. Pretty nice. And the final thing I want to talk about is drum substitution. And what I mean by drum substitution is not using snares or claps whatsoever and using something completely different. The most common thing that you could use are general percussion sounds, like this one right here. It sounds pretty similar to having a snare pitched up, like way up, and you can pretty much use percussions this way. You can also stray away from tonal percussions. Like for example, this kind of Foley or maybe like broken shaker kind of sound. I'm gonna move the start play head to where there's the most impact. Or maybe using this very long shaker sound. Let's go to around about here. And adding a fade out. Maybe pitching it down a little bit. So we get something like this. What? Woo! Whoa, this can go crazy as like for dubstep kick claps as well. Of course it needs a bit more layering. Still, like using a shaker as a clap is pretty insane. You can also use kicks as snares as well. Let's say, we'll use the exact same kick right now. And in order for this to work, the quote-unquote snare has to be either a higher pitch or shorter in length compared to your main kick drum. This one right here is our snare, and I'm gonna just pitch it up just a few. And I'll also add a filter on it, just so it's not too harsh. Let's slow this down. Actually, let's make our kick drum even lower in pitch. Woo! And let's high cut the sample, some reverb on it, make it sound huge. Actually, no, let's keep that body in there and get it quieter. That's wavy. What if I pitch it even higher? Whoa. That is crazy. And the same principle applies if you use a tom. Let's say this one. It's already a higher pitch. I'll add a reverb to it, add a low cut, so I get that high-end attack from it. So now we get something like this. Whoa. Maybe a different one. Let's get this crazy one. Oh, this will sound wild. Pitching it way down. There we go. That's an insane sounding snare. And one final thing that I like to use instead of a snare is to use hi-hats. Let's say we have this hi-hat right here. And just as is, without anything else, it sounds pretty neat. Let's add in the reverb and delay as well, like before. Whoa. That's already pretty mental, but that's not my favorite thing yet. My favorite thing is to turn these hi-hats into claps by pitching them so far down. Can you hear that crispy, lo-fi-ish sounding high end? That's what I'm talking about. So if we put a filter on there, like so, and get a nice snap on it. Let's use the pitch envelope method that I was talking about earlier to get a snap. And then control that tail. Sick. Add a bit of reverb. Now that is an insane sounding clap to me. I love it. Woo! Let's try and use a different hi-hat. Maybe this one? Whoa. That is cool. Give it some more reverb. Make this one a bit louder. Ooh! That is insane. Man, what? And to drive this home, I have 5 examples of me using this exact same technique. Bringing up from the soil, from the depths of distress to the aura of joy. Stay welcome like a good morning, add to the boil. And that should be 4 main ways on getting the most out of your snares and claps. And that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to like and sub to buff my algorithm RNG, leave a comment if you have something to say, and maybe shout to someone you would think would find this useful. You can further support me by checking out my links in the description below. This includes my official website, my Discord, my Patreon, and other social medias. Once again, thanks a lot for watching, and stay creative. See you in a bit.
This is the Genesis.